happy Tuesday. Welcome to Hatching for Health, the Jessica Hatch Show. Have you ever known somebody with a speech impediment? Well, I had not personally until I learned that my guest coordinator of Hatching for Health, Avery, in fact grew up with one. Now, you would never know by talking to her, but she was in fact deemed physically handicapped at age 3 due to her speech problems. So today she's going to join us and we're going to learn all about her journey. So Avery, welcome to the show.
Hey Jessica, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I know that you're usually on the other side of this, but now you get to see exactly what our guests experience and what you prepare them to be a part of each and every week. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of be on the other side of things.
Yeah, so as I mentioned just in the intro there, by speaking with you, speech problems would never be something that would even come to mind. And that's why I never knew until you brought this to my attention. So tell me, I know you were a little child at the time, but with your parents helping you understand where things were back then, what age was it where they started to realize that, hey, there's something going on with her speech?
Yeah, so when I first started making sounds, my mom told my dad, she was like, it sounds like it can't hear, I had that kind of very nasally sound. So at the time that I first started kind of making sounds, she knew that something wasn't right. She took me to my pediatrician and she said that this could be very normal. I would wait a little bit longer to really have her tested. And when I turned 3, my parents, essentially said, okay, something's really not right. We need to go, have her actually tested and see where she stands, with her communication.
Of course.
So they took me.
Oh, go ahead.
So they took me, had me tested, and I had such a severe speech impediment. I could only say I couldn't say any consonants. So I could only, make sounds like A, E, I, O, and U.
Okay.
So that's why they kind of said, okay, well, she is, formally, handicapped because she can't communicate. So.
Isn't that incredible? Was it anything tied to like the audiology side, like your hearing as well, or was this specifically just tied to speech?
Yeah, so it was specifically tied to speech. There is a pretty significant impact of audio in the speech world, but my case specifically was, strictly speech.
Goodness. So I guess in talking to your parents, you're much further years along than 3 years old when they started to talk to you about, hey, this was really concerning for us. I mean, I know that you're one of 4 girls, and that's enough of a full plate for 2 parents. But to think that, oh my goodness, our one little girl is not going to be able to communicate like her sisters. This is going to, be such a struggle growing up, with, I guess, feeling made fun of and things like that. So I guess, how did they express, those feelings that they had back then?
It was really hard on my mom and my dad. My mom really specifically was a really big champion for me. She, actually for Christmas, she got me this scarf with a poem on it by Maya Angelou, who is a beautiful poet. And it's called I Will Rise, because she saw me, rise above all of these challenges that I've had to overcome. And she, she told me it was really hard for her to watch me struggle for so long, but, ultimately it's made me into the person that I am today.
Of course. That almost tears me up because I know your mom personally, and she's like such a strong Christian woman. So, I think anything that would have come across any of your plates as children, she was like, oh no, we're going to overcome it with God on our side. We're going to reach a higher point. So I can imagine that's a beautiful little story to think about, a scarf with that on there, and then it's related to words, which, you're now able to speak beautifully. So So tell me, so at that moment they're, I'm assuming going, okay, what do we do? You know, I assume we need to go into a speech therapy, you know, classroom. So what did they do to progress from there with you?
Yeah, so after that point, I started to do kind of really intense speech, you know, kind of speech work. Once I entered public school, the state of Texas actually provides a speech pathologist in the school I would be pulled out of class to go do speech work, but I also did it privately. So I was in speech classes probably 4 days a week, working just to try to, you know, learn how to speak, essentially. So yeah, right after I was kind of deemed, you know, handicapped, we started rigorous speech work, so that I could, you know, learn how to speak.
Yeah, of course. So this is well, you're not necessarily in kindergarten yet, or so this is something that's separate from, you know, even the start of regular schooling, but you were going 4 days a week into this, you know, I guess setting one-on-one with a therapist.
Yeah, so at some points it was that often. But when I first started, and obviously I was really young, so I don't totally recall, but based on what I hear from my mom, they started me in private speech classes, and at that time, you know, my parents were trying to start, you know, their chiropractic practice, and speech therapy can be really expensive. Insurance doesn't always cover it. So they were, you know, trying to make sure I got the best care. And I'm sure now as an adult looking, you know, kind of reflecting, I am so appreciative of that, because I know it probably wasn't easy for them.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume so. And at that age, you know, was insurance part of covering those therapy sessions, or maybe a certain amount of them only?
My assumption would be probably up to a certain point.
Yeah.
And probably kind of certain speech pathologists. You know, my mom, she only wants us to have the best.
Yeah.
So she wasn't gonna, you know, take me to any kind of
just anywhere
regular. Yeah. So she really made sure I went to the best.
Yeah, this is the only one insurance doesn't cover, so we're gonna go there. I'm kidding. Yeah, no.
Exactly.
I can imagine. She's like, every dollar we make extra, we're, you know. Yeah, no. They're a great team. I know your parents run a very successful medical practice. So, but that was, you know, many years ago. So you're right. They were just in the infancy of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what did that look like for you? I know at that age, you know, it's probably way too long ago to comprehend like how things were going, but from going into age 4 or 5, like when you start to remember, tell me about that, just in school and around your own sisters, you know, how that was for you and trying to communicate properly.
It was really frustrating, to be able to think about what I wanted to say and not be able to physically say it. There were times when I can recall a time specifically, I was at my grandma's house with one of my cousins, and with my older sister, and I wanted grape juice. So I kept asking. I said, I want grape juice, like I'm really thirsty, and no one could understand me. And it's just so frustrating. Eventually my cousin, her name is Kristen, actually said, oh, like she wants the grape juice. But it's definitely one of the most frustrating things I think I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, I couldn't even, you know, kind of fathom those moments. I think there's a lot of different, you know, disorders out there that neurologically affect in different ways, and sometimes it's speech related, or sometimes it's just, you know, not even being able to communicate through sign language or whatever it might be. But I think you talked to me a little bit about, you know, just some of the bullying, which I know goes as far back as we can remember, and it's just as pronounced now with kids, just not understanding the effects that it has on one another. Tell me a little bit about that when you were in school and struggling with the speech problems.
Man, it was terrible. I would beg my parents not to make me go to school. I would cry. I would tell them, oh, I'll homeschool, like I'll do it from home. And I would just every day it was a fight to even get up and want to go, which stinks because I love to learn. I think learning and the opportunity that we have to be able to learn and experience school is so special, and to be made to not want to go to school is really difficult.
Yeah, definitely is a bridge that I know you personally, and you're a go-getter, you're a people person, so wanting to isolate yourself due to something that what felt like was out of your control, could be what some would think could be detrimental just to your livelihood. But obviously knowing that you've overcome that, what age was it that you began to, really be able to take control of your speech due to the therapy sessions?
So when I was in the 4th grade, I actually mastered my last consonants, which is R. R is actually one of the hardest ones to master. And that was just due to kind of the rigorous, speech work that I worked on. There are many people who, adults even, who still, can't, properly pronounce their R's. But oddly enough, when I, kind of mastered the R, I developed a pretty severe stutter. It was, so bad. It would take me, a minute to get one word out. It was really severe, and nobody could really figure out why. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times with a stutter, you're born with it. So nobody really knew why. Mine just kind of popped up. It can also occur out of a traumatic event. But I really didn't have anything traumatic at that time happen to me. So we really, we still to this day don't understand why I got such a severe stutter. Mm-hmm. But I didn't stop speech therapy until I was 17. And even now I have a really, really great, the person I actually went to, my last person that I went to, I'll call her sometimes and I'll say, hey, like, I'm really struggling with this word. Like, can you please help me?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even now it's still not perfect. And there are still days where it's hard and I get tired.
So hold that thought, Avery. We do have to take a quick commercial break, but I do want to talk more about your continued relationship with your therapist. So we will be right back with you guys after this commercial. Hi, I'm Jessica Hatch, the host of Hatching for Health. We are a show that was brought about to create awareness for children with rare diseases, disabilities, and disorders with hopes of finding cures. We're looking for doctors that would like to participate in being on our episodes and possibly even bring their own patients on the show to talk about how they have helped cure them, whether it's been surgically or through medication or any sorts of ways. We think that it's very inspiring for others to learn these stories and to possibly help somebody else. So I encourage you to reach out if you are a doctor who is interested in being on the show and allowing us to highlight not only you, but the work that you've done for a child. You can reach out by emailing at info@hatchingforhealth.org. That's info@hatchingforhealth.org, and we look forward to hearing from you. Imagine hearing the news as a parent that your child has been diagnosed with a condition that is degenerative or life-threatening. Now imagine being told that there's little to no research for the condition that even exists, making it difficult to try and figure out what to do next. The reality is that for so many rare conditions, finding specialists who understand the condition and being able to make informed treatment decisions for their child is very challenging. Each episode, I will help with my network of physicians and medical resources across the U.S. to attempt to connect the dots by bringing widespread recognition of rare conditions and connecting families to the best treatment, clinical experts, resources, and support. I'm going to highlight these hard-to-diagnose diseases and offer in-depth awareness for families of children in the rare disease community. I believe we are all in charge of our own healthcare, and pushing for answers and creating awareness for these various rare health conditions can make the world around us a better place. Not only am I a huge advocate who seeks to spearhead the fight to bring rare conditions to the forefront of research, but I personally had my own rare condition. In this rare condition, I was able to be cured of due to early detection. My passion to help others was fueled by that experience, and it has led me to start the Hatching for Health show. Now, this show is a vehicle for us to create awareness to help these children find cures. Welcome back. If you just joined us, we have Avery on the show, who happens to be Hatching for Health's guest coordinator, and we're talking to her about her speech therapy that she grew up with. Going back to earlier in the episode, she was actually deemed physically handicapped due to this speech problem and the severity of it at age 3. But as we continue to speak with you, Avery, you would never know. And before we took a commercial break, you were talking that it was not until 17 years old that you fully felt comfortable with your speech, and that you were continuously in your classes, and even still today have moments where you kind of reach out to her. So 17, I mean, that's on the verge of graduating high school, if not graduating high school based on where your birth date stands. That must have been really tough. So you're saying, like, from freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you're still struggling with conversations and stuff with, classmates, teachers. Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was, it's so hilarious to think about now, but when I would go, cause at that point I was driving, and I was alone a lot, so I couldn't rely on other people to speak for me, which I really did a lot. Yeah. So when I would go pick up, to-go food or orders or something like that, and I would have to give my name was ironically something that was really hard for me to say. So I would make up names. I would just say, oh, my name's Ashley or whatever. So yeah, luckily I can say my name now, but yeah, it took a long time for me to be able to be comfortable actually speaking.
Do you feel like that, I guess, made a difference in, at the time, kind of your friend circle and maybe the different curriculums that you were a part of, whether it been sports or theater arts, or, was there areas where you wanted to be a part of it, but, you decided, I'm not comfortable enough?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely made an impact on, who I had around me. I met a really great group of, friends who were actually still all friends. We talk every day. They were in my wedding, and they really lifted me up and were really my champions. But I think that a lot of people were uncomfortable with kind of how I spoke, and they didn't know kind of how to react. And even still in high school, people were really mean. I would hear them talk about me behind my back and just really, really awful stuff. And you'd think, we're older. Like, are we really gonna, make fun of someone for something they can't help? But
of course,
yeah.
But it was still, something people, tended to talk about because they had nothing else to, obviously.
I know,
that's
it's crazy
immaturity.
to me.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think the most important thing today with speaking with you is people that you can inspire, because, I can't be in your shoes and, it's not something that I can go like, oh, this is the advice I would give. So what would you maybe have for parents that have little children right now that are struggling with their speech, and they're very concerned on what, you know, their future looks like? What kind of advice could you give them?
That's a really good question. I think that probably what I would say, just from, you know, walking that path in life and hearing from my parents, would be to be patient. It's not always going to be, you know, like pulling teeth. It will improve eventually, and even if it doesn't, there are different ways to communicate. You know, they may not be the best public speaker in the whole world, but they're going to be good at their certain thing. And I think that is what is important. And also it makes you stronger. I think that is probably the biggest reason why I am who I am today, why I work as hard as I do, and why I'm as compassionate as I am to other people who are experiencing things on their own. So
I think that's great. I couldn't agree more in all aspects. I think we all have different, you know, talents and skill sets, and this alone, you know, shouldn't hold somebody back from other things that, you know, they might be amazing at, alongside, you know, getting to the level they need to be at speech-wise. And some that are deaf out there, you know, end up being sign language is their, you know, extension of communication too. So that is the question. So with sign language, was it something that you were taught in speech therapy, or did you guys just solely focus on, you know, on speech alone and getting those words properly pronounced?
Yeah, so not that I can recall I ever learned sign language. They definitely, you know, back when I was really young, they would kind of teach me how to communicate non-verbally, just, you know, to kind of show that I needed a drink of water or something like that. But really the focus was to teach me how to communicate verbally.
Okay, yeah, because there was, you know, definitely the capability there that they found. So it's like, let's focus on one thing, you know, first trying to create another way to communicate.
Right.
So tell me something valuable that you've learned, and you've kind of given us a lot of valuable things that have happened, but just throughout this entire struggle, like, I guess the most valuable thing that you feel like has come of it.
I think one of the most valuable things I've learned is that people are, you know, have hurts and hangups, no matter who they are. And even if you can't see it, someone's always going through something. So you should always be compassionate and kind. And that's one of the reasons why I think I was drawn to work with you, Jessica, because you're an advocate for those people. You know, it's your passion to help make known these conditions that people face, whether they be, you know, inwards or outwards.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's you know, what we're here and strive to do on the Hatching for Health show. And I know I didn't tell you to go into that, but I do appreciate you saying that. And I think that we're, you know, luckily connected through a lot of your family I've been able to work with over the years, mainly your sister. So it was a great opportunity that we got connected when we did. So I do want to let the viewers out there know who your speech therapist was or is currently, that you still connect with, because I'm obviously she did a wonder for you, and I think other people would probably love to connect with her if it makes sense for them location-wise. So who is the speech therapist that helped you along the way?
Yeah, so her name is Jennifer Petrillo. She was with kind of a private speech therapy company. Now I just kind of call her personally. I have her number.
Okay.
And I don't know what company she's with now. But I think that, you know, my advice there would be to find someone who listens to you and who isn't going to force, certain, advice on you, and who listens to what you need. So every single, speech pathologist is so unique in just the ways that they teach you things and their philosophies. So just find the one that suits you and what you need.
Yeah, I can, imagine the various children and even like young adults that they work with. Everyone has, a different way of learning, different patterns. And so, it might be that some people have to go through one or two before they feel the right connection, that, they're really having milestones. So I would probably, just from an outsider, encourage that, you find somebody that, like you said, is willing to listen and feel like you're growing with, because, that's everyone's time, and you want to, get to where you need to be as soon as possible, just for lifelong situations. And so you're based out of Corpus Christi now, but you were born and raised here in Houston?
Correct.
Okay. So was she somebody you actually visited with as a child, or was it kind of in the middle stages that you brought her in as your therapist?
Yeah, so I didn't start seeing her until I was 16. I went to probably 10 different speech pathologists throughout my life.
Yeah.
Just because, especially with my stutter, nobody could figure out why. And I think a lot of the solutions were to cure it. And then I finally got to a point where I thought to myself, I'm just always going to have this, and it's who I am. It's fine. So what Jen actually did for me is she taught me how to get through the stutter. So she taught me kind of tools that I have in my toolbox that I use every day. I'm using them right now.
Yeah, that's great.
To kind of work through it. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's perfectly said. Like, going through a number of different therapists along the way, I think says it itself. It's not always, a perfect fit. And so as a mother helping a child out there, just kind of know that, there's options, and to do the proper research and meet and greets with your children to find the best sources. So, and Avery, if anybody does want to reach out to get advice or, directly contact some of these therapists, are you willing to have them do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would probably have to contact Jen to see if that's something that she would be comfortable with.
Okay.
But they can always, if anybody has any questions or just needs a little, helping hand, they can always reach out to our Instagram, or email me at my Hatching for Health email address, and I'd be happy to, try to find someone to help connect them with.
Great. Well, that does conclude our episode, but I want to thank you so much, Avery, our guest coordinator, being willing to come on and be vulnerable to tell your story personally. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, I hope all of you learned something about speech therapy and realizing that you can overcome anything. So we'll be right back here next week with you at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday.